What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Almost Functional 40K. Here again with Aiden for another Council of the Fang to, share what wisdom we've gained over the last week from playing in some RTTs with our wolves.
Yeah, a lot of wisdom.
Yeah. All right. So we'll let's start off with you. Let me go ahead and I'll bring up the list that you took. All right. So it looks like you took Grimnar on Storm Rider.
Yep.
Chaplain on bike. I'm assuming still doing the Outrider thing we did last time.
Fury of the Storm, Stormlance. I've got two battle leaders. One had extra points, so he rerolls advances. One comes in on turn one. I've got a
Hunter's Instinct. Yeah, because I love Hunter's Instinct.
Oh, it's so good. It's such a good turn one threat. Wolf Lord on Thunderwolf. I've got 10 intercessors with Draxus. I've been loving that. I actually tried out a unit of aggressors in a repulsor executioner because, I think aggressors are kind of okay, especially, it's just a random skirmishing piece. I've got 5 scouts. I've got this big 6-man outriders to go with the chaplain. They're kind of like a mini Thunderwolf cav unit. 2x3 outriders for skirmishing. 2x3 Thunderwolf cav. Here's another thing I was trying is just minimum Thunderwolf cavalry. So instead of a big 6-mans, I would just do a 3-man with 2 characters. So a 3-man with Logan and leader, 3-man with Lord and leader. 5 Henrysian wolves, a lancer, and then, like I said, executioner and Draxus.
All right, so a little different than what you ran to your 3-0 success last week.
Yeah, a little different. I cut the 6-man wolves down to a 3-man because I figured they're just going to go send and die anyway. Might as well try that elsewhere. I think I tweaked one other thing. Yeah, remove the ATV from the big 6-man bikes, and I put that into the repulsor executioner. So it was slightly different.
Yeah, well, and you didn't have the aggressor or the repulsor last time, right?
No, I had a lancer, and the aggressors were another 3 Thunderwolves in that 3-man unit.
So you had a second lancer instead of the repulsor, and you had another 3 Thunderwolves instead of the aggressors.
Yeah.
All right. So this weekend didn't go quite as well. 1 and 2. Now was that more matchup, opponent, terrain, or do you feel it was the changes to the list? What do you think was the biggest?
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt.
Go ahead.
Yeah, but I think it was a combination of all 3. I think in Stormlance, it's actually a mistake to try to minimize the amount of Thunderwolf cavalry in your list. If you're doing Stormlance, you should bring Thunderwolf cavalry. That's just how it is. They have some weaknesses, but you just kind of need to know how to play around them. Secondly, there's a terrain. The terrain, I played at a local store, and they had some beautiful new terrain, but it was very dense, a.k.a., on GW, on the middle ruins, they have a part of the ruin that's like 2 inches you can move through, and it's visible if you step into it. This was 100% blocked all the way up to like 8 inches. So imagine just a big square wall, no windows. Then on certain terrain, instead of an L, they had U's. And it made for very, very dense terrain. And my list, you can see, has 0 fly and has a decent amount of shooting. So the shooting angles were not what I was expecting. There was only 1 shooting angle on every board. And then getting to where I need to go was very burdensome. And then lastly, go ahead.
No, so with you missing those 2-inch spots, that, for one, makes the Thunderwolves harder to get around. And 2, you dropped some of the Thunderwolves to add some more shooting, and then that was less effective because of the terrain.
Exactly. Yeah. And in the matchups, pretty bad matchups. I played in a Tyranids, and I've only had 2 10th edition games in a Tyranids out of my 100 plus games. And I just still don't know what to do into them, man. They're just kind of an unknown quantity to me. I'm kind of figuring them out. They play Warhammer very differently than other armies. All the battle shocks, random stuff, they're much more durable. Just weird stuff they can do. And then that was the first bad matchup. The last bad matchup was all jump pack Death Company Blood Angels. It was 3x10 Death Company jump packs with characters, 1x6 Sanguinary Guard with character, 2 Vindicators. And wow, that list hits like a truck. On this terrain too, I couldn't shoot it until it came and charged me. Brought it to a close game, but yeah, wow. So it was all three.
Yeah, because he's all fly infantry, so he can stage behind and hide from your shooting. Whereas your
Every room.
wolves have to try to move around,
Yep.
which opens them to shooting. And since he can go through the walls, he can kind of dictate where the combats happen.
Yeah, and exactly. And my one saving grace in Stormlance is very good at shooting, kind of weak to melee.
Yeah.
The one saving grace in Stormlance has got a 6-inch reactive move to make melee charges harder. Your opponent commits a big squad. You're like, I'm going to make your charge a 3-inch goes to a 9-inch charge. You fail that, your unit sitting in the middle. I can charge and shoot them. However, Death Company, they natively reroll all charges and all hits, and he did not fail a single charge. I think he hit an 8 without a reroll. He hit, yeah. Anyway, my out in the game did not work, and I felt like I just didn't have enough to counterpunch.
All right. Do you feel like if you take in your old list, you'd have done better, or it was just mostly the terrain was the problem?
Most of the terrain, I was unfamiliar with it. Old list, I think, would have done better. The 3 Thunderwolves with the Lord and the Leader, in the 2 games I lost, I sent them out toward my opponent's expansion early, and they died way too quick.
Yeah. Yeah, because
With
I
the
find,
yeah,
when I send the big squads out, you lose one or two of them before they get in most of the time anyway. So you really need the 6-man to still have the ass to do something when you get there.
yeah, I think one of the big learns is that I don't want to go full wolf jail. I still like the amount of shooting that I have.
Mm-hmm.
But one big Thunderwolf unit is really key in making this list work. Because there were both those games that I lost. If I had a 6-man, that Thunderwolf unit would have taken a beating. Maybe it's down to 2 wolves and 2 characters, but then it's still hitting hard.
Well, still 7 attacks back per regular guy, and the character's a little more.
Exactly, and they fall back and they charge and they actually do a lot of damage. Versus the 3-man, my opponents just had enough to wipe 3 wolves and 2 characters, and I was like, I wish I had more to just keep that train going for another turn.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Plus, you throw that 6-man out, it just really gets extra mileage out of the -1 to hit, -1 to wound.
Oh yeah, -1 hit and wound. Yeah, it can be such a key in the shooting matchup.
Yeah, I agree with that. So, all right, let's hop over and look at the list I took to the RDT I went to. Oh, it didn't load the right way. All right, let's do this. Go back to. All right, so I had 2 Thunderwolf bricks. I also was running Stormlight, so I had Herald and a Battle Leader, and then a Wolf Lord and a Battle Leader. I didn't take any of the enhancements because with 2 squads, I was like, well, I don't really need to reserve one. I had a 5-man Intercessor squad just to give me 1 troop unit, or battle line now, I guess they're called. 2 Jump Intercessors, 1 Inceptor squad of Infiltrators, a squad of Scouts, the 2 big Wolf squads, and then 3 Redemptor Dreadnoughts, which was really the main change from what I've normally been doing. I was just thinking that little bit of shooting might be nice to clear some screens and stuff early. So round 1, I end up playing into Imperial Knights with Canuck's Rest in the big combat knight with the shield and the lance thing. Or no, he had some weird gun on it, the big knight. But it was one of the Forge World Knights. And so I got into them with the Thunderwolves, and I was really missing the extra AP strat from Champions of Rust, because again, I mathed it out. They just leave them alive in Stormlance on average, but in Champions of Rust, if you have extra AP and stuff, you do just kill one. So statistically, I probably should have double charged one of the big ones, but I'm so used to playing Champions of Rust, I charged a squad into each one and then left them both alive.
Oh,
and
that's
that was just the end of it.
Bad, man.
So instead of overkilling one, I left both alive, and that was kind of the loss there. And then the Redemptors just didn't do much into them. The Knights just with their little Helverins and the melted ones, they just picked up the Dreadnoughts too easy. So it's really missing some of the other, I was missing Ragnar, some of the other stuff that could really go in and kill those little knights. So I was just feeling like the Redemptors just really don't get enough buffs in this or Champions of Rust, although they do get a little bit of combat buffs in Champions of Rust, that I think I'm just going to drop them and go back to more of my old style list. And then round 2, I played into Eldari, but it's the old book, so half of what I learned really won't matter anymore because
Right. Yeah.
they're gone this weekend. But he had 2 of the Night Spinners, so he just kept shooting the Wolf Squads, -2 to move, -2 advance, -2 charge. And then with their fire and face, so it was a real pain to get to them.
Damn.
Yeah. And then he had some striking scorpions and 3 war walkers. What else did he have? Swooping hawks. A lot of the normal stuff. You see some farseers and just once again, the dreadnoughts never really got there to do much. So I just
What did you think about the Redemptors? I really do think that a combined arms is best Warhammer nowadays, where you have a good amount of shooting, a good amount of melee. Seems like your Redemptors were the shooting in your list. How did you like them?
I like the idea of them. This didn't seem to perform the way I would hope. I find every time I try to add shooting into my lists, it just doesn't do as well. I find when I just go all in on Champions of Rust, just combat, when I have my best results. So I ended up going 0-2, and then we ended up with an odd number of players for round 3, so I just ended up dropping, so there was no bye.
Yeah.
Because I'd learned what I wanted to about the list. I was like, it wasn't performing the way, because I'd only got one half test game in, and it was against Star Shatter.
Right.
And the guy I played against I've played him before with the Thunderwolves, and he was just so scared of the Thunderwolves killing the C-Tan because they get around the -1 damage.
Yep.
And I had bottom of turn. He really didn't even come out till turn 3, so I just got to sit there and lean on my bottom turn advantage. And so when he finally I didn't even send the Thunderwolf squad in until turn 5, and the other one never even went in. They were just hiding behind buildings, towing on objectives, surviving the shooting to keep outscoring primary.
Okay.
So it was a kind of weird game that didn't really get to test the list.
Yeah.
But then when he did finally push on the last 2 turns, when he realized he had to try to go for a Hail Mary, he just picked up the dread. So those last 2 turns, the list really just kind of got washed. I was just able to outplay it because he played too timid early with me and have a bottom turn. So like I said, that wasn't a really good test game for the list, which I hate doing that. I have a big tendency to do that, switching last minute and taking untested listed tournaments, because I wake up the day before submission with, I got an idea.
Oh, no, that's the worst thing.
Yep.
That's the worst thing, man.
So I'd been testing a Champions of Rust list I was kind of having decent success with. And I was like, but the Star Shatter was giving me a little problem. I was like, the Redemptors might be what I need to fight Star Shatter. And I don't think they are. So that list going back to trash.
Oh, so what's your tried and true? What's working for you right now in Space Wolves?
Well, what I had been running was the 2 Thunderwolf squads with characters, Ragnar and an Impulsor, Yulrik and a Rhino with a squad. The Scouts and Infiltrators are in everything. But I was talking to Dave and then looking at some other lists. Here's what I ended up coming up with for what I'm going to, I think, take this weekend. If it'll load.
Yeah, Richard, I see D3 weapons are not really a thing. Especially there's barely any D3 melee except for, Dreadnought melee, and then Redemptor shooting or potentially some shootings, but it's just some of those are so hard to bring to bear. People can just play around melee Dreadnoughts.
Yeah. And the Redemptors, their number of shots is so random that, and this is just luck of the dice, but always seems to happen to me, when I really need them to go in, they roll low on their shots.
Yeah, you're only looking at 2 or 3 shots.
Yeah.
And then they miss
if they have 2 little guardians on an objective, I'm going to roll 8 shot or 7 shot, whatever the max is. But if they got 5 Marines I need to kill, I'm going to get 3 shot. But so what I'm running now is I got Harold, Logan, and then 2 battle leaders. One of them is running with the Black Death, and he's going to run with Harold, so that the 7 dev wound attacks, 3 from the dog on the charge and 4 from the hammer. Uh,
Wow.
that was an idea from one of the subscribers. Mentioned that in the comments. Like, why don't? Because I've been running it on a Wolf Lord with a hammer because I was like, oh, 5 hammer attacks. Well, now I still only get 4 hammer attacks, but I get the 3 dogs attacks on the charge. So it's like
That is amazing.
I was like, you know what? That sounds like a cool idea.
Yeah.
And then Logan's running with the other one. Actually, I haven't been running Storm Rider, but we're gonna try him out.
Yeah. Yeah. I really do like Storm Rider.
Yeah.
We talked about this last week because I
Mm-hmm.
think Logan on foot is kind of like his once per game is great, but other than that, he's kind of like a nothing unit. He's
Yeah.
every squad can deal with a Terminator. 5 intercessors, they throw a grenade, they shoot a bunch of shots, maybe you fail a couple saves. Like you can pull a dead Terminator out of your butt most times, but Logan on Storm Rider, he is not a nothing unit. That guy can take down some things.
Well, yeah, and I think we might talk about this last. I had in my mind, 115. I'll just save those points because I don't like the bigger. But then you have to buy the Wolf Lord anyway. That's 100. So now you're paying 215 to pay the 180
Exactly.
for him. So it's really is a little cheaper. And then like the little actions he did, just replace that with a different unit.
Yeah.
So I'm running Ragnar and a Impulsor with 6 Blade Guard. That's one of my
Ooh.
favorite units.
Wow.
Unless I hit like C-Tans or have any, like half damage, -1 damage stuff, then they bounce a little bit. But in almost everything else, they're brutal. Then Yulrik with 10 Wolf Guard with Storm Shield. Just they hit on 40 attacks, hitting on 2s, re-rolling everything into monsters, characters, and vehicles.
Which is most of the units.
Yeah, which is most stuff you want them to get into. And against anything else, still 40 attacks hitting on 2s. So then I stole this from the list review I did the other day. I'm running Big Dave, my Grey Knight friend who plays Grey Knight, was telling me he's played against this, and he's like it's almost an auto take. We're Lieutenant and Phobos armor with Reavers.
Ooh, I think that is almost an auto take in Champions. So what is this going to do?
Yeah, so they deep strike in. You can shoot and move with them, D6 inches, I believe it is, and try to get that cheap charge. It's hopefully a cheap trick, or not cheap trick, but an easy trick to get Saga Majesty up kind of early and threaten backfield units.
They're really good at that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to try that out. Sounds really good, but I haven't actually got a game in with it yet, but I like the thought of that. Lieutenant with combi weapon. I've loved him whenever I've taken him. Just infiltrate, do actions.
Hard to kill.
Built-in reactionary move.
Yep.
Low NOP. Yeah, just a nice little tech piece. Then the Blade Guards. Infiltrators. I start every list with infiltrators. Just I drop them in my backfield, as people probably heard me say 100 times. And basically just forget them for the whole game.
Yep.
Because with the pressure of champions and Stormlights, whatever kind of wolves you're running, people who normally don't get to them because they're not going to drop on them from behind you. So it's like they can just sit back there and hold your backfield. I really love them in Ritual because they push up a little bit, raising your things, and then people can't come through the wolves to get to them, and they'll sit there on 2 Ritual objectives for almost the whole game.
Wow, that's great.
There's the Reaver Scouts. Just infiltrate. If you get first turn and draw like area and secure, or like really you can just score some early secondaries easy with them.
Yep.
Without having to throw away more than 70 points. And if you don't draw something good, you just move them back and up down them when you need to. The Wolf Guard run with Yulrik, we talked about that, the 2 Thunderwolves. 30 points left, so I'm running Fenrisians.
Yeah.
Not always the biggest fan of OC0, but they're only 30 points. They can run out and skirmish, and if you ever get Majesty up, well, now they can do actions and other stuff too. So
yeah, and actually, I like the idea of the 5 infiltrators and 5 Fenrisian wolves. The infiltrators screen your home, then 5 Fenrisian wolves can just screen your other corner,
Side,
and then you have the whole board blocked out for 130 points. It's pretty good.
Yep. And then a Pulse on a Rhino for the 2 units to ride in, and once they're out, if they live, I find they're great for contesting objectives, doing secondaries, because when you have Ragnar, Yulrik, and Thunderwolves in your face, you're not really going to want to shoot stuff that could hurt these things at them because you need them other places.
Right.
So if people try to kill them by themselves, but once they're empty, I find they kind of just do what they want.
Yeah. Richard was saying try a Look Squad with combi weapons if they're in the Rhino.
I've seen people do that. I really like that option. Unfortunately, I have all mine kitted up with storm shields, and I'm lazy. So,
Yeah, yeah. I
and
was
I
actually
think,
playing.
and I have a
Yeah,
feeling when the book comes out, they may be going away and getting replaced with some sort of Primaris option, possibly that could
kind of
be
like Inner
our Blade
Circle.
Guard option. Yeah,
Blade
so
Guard.
I really don't want to put any too much time or investment in that unit when they're just going to go away. I had them basically. I had the old Vanguard vets with Storm Shield hammers and stuff like that I ran before, and basically I just had them real nice looking painted up. So I just popped off the jump packs, and they're my Wolf Guard. So
Yeah, exactly. And they do great. I think I tried the Ulrich's Wolfguard with Storm Bolters with Fire Discipline. Kind of actually a funny combination. It didn't work out, but it
no,
was
but the
funny because they
combies,
just got a bunch of
the
shots and they
combies,
hit
yeah,
melee,
but the combies that is putting out a bunch of dev wounds, and they just really can do some damage before you go in on some screens and stuff.
which is
But I
nice.
just, but I just like Blade Guard, Ulrich Squad, all the Thunderwolves. Everything is 4-up invols. I don't care what you're shooting at me. I'm just rolling 4s across the table.
That's
Unless you're AP0. I just find I like that survivability option personally, just the way I play. But I do think the combi weapons are really, really nice on that unit.
that's exactly what I was going to say. You kind of have weight of 4-up invulns in this list.
I do. Yep. Yeah. So as long as so the biggest weakness with this is mortal wound spam. But that's one of the reasons I like going back to champions over Stormlance,
Oh
anyways,
yeah,
because I have the strat. It's really brutal against like Grey Knights or Thousand Suns. Anything that's super heavy psychic mortal damage, you just start and bear and just like, all right, I'm getting a 4-up against it, and like,
oh so brutal.
yeah.
Okay, so yeah, well, you're thinking more champions or Russ, more melee,
Yeah.
screw the shooting, just
Yeah.
more
Yeah,
chain
I've
swords.
found I enjoy that play style more. It just fits more of like the way I naturally like to play the game.
Yeah,
And all the RTTs around here use real good GW terrain. And so I find combat armies can play really, really well on that without needing a lot of shooting
totally.
support.
You got some mean units in this list. Jeez.
Yes, I do. Yep. And then between the Reavers, the Scouts, the Infiltrators, and the 2 transports, I have decent mission play as well, I believe. So,
Wow.
and I'm good at this list is good at all the kill secondaries.
It really is. Yeah. I mean, you know, I know we talked about it, but I just have played a lot of no shooting armies.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes I just find like my opponent is sitting in the open in a transport, and I'm like, oh, are they sitting, or they're just sitting there vindicators behind their front line, just shooting away all game, and I'm like, damn, that sucks.
Yeah. But I find that's another thing I like about the 4-up invul saves is Vindicators really aren't that efficient into it because they're D6 damage. If they're shooting at Thunderwolves, they're not necessarily always getting a lot of shots. Like one turn they will, one turn they won't.
Right.
And then you just get rid of half of them. And then with D6 damage, most of the time it takes 2 to kill 1 wolf. Like I just don't find the Vindicators have the efficiency into my list.
Yeah, and even when you do take shooting, sometimes that shooting falls flat against a good number of targets.
Yeah, the only thing that really scares me is Star Shatter Doomsday arcs with the flat 4 damage.
Flat 4 damage, ignore mods. Oh my god, that is terrifying.
Yeah, because anything damage 3 or less, you got to get 2 through. I got a 4-up, so basically you got to do 4 wounds to kill 1 Thunderwolf.
Yeah,
yeah, and then by the time you whittle 2 Thunderwolf squads, Ragnar and Yorick are there, and then by the time you get through those, I'm pretty solid up on points most of the time.
Yeah, Richard's saying he's running Captain Black Duck, Stormguard, and Impulsor. Great unit. They kill any vehicle they touch, even just most units. Ulrich and Rhino with Wolfguard, great. Ragnar with Blade Guard, Veteran, and 10 Wolfen. Wow.
Yeah.
2 Blisses and a Lancer. I think that's a respectable amount of shooting,
Yeah. Yeah, the Blisses for their points are pretty good.
Have you tried them?
Yep. Yeah, I have one. I'm just getting ready to trade for a second one. But I find they're great for sitting back and like kind of holding your back and shooting from there. But
Yeah,
I just
yeah,
don't. There's nothing in here I want to drop for them right now. I just
yeah. Your list looks very well put together. A lot of death bricks.
yeah
Oh boy.
yeah. But no, I do like the ballistis. I keep trying to think about swapping out some stuff here to find points for what's his name, Murder Fang, but I don't feel like he's a must-have. I feel like he's a win more.
That's exactly how I felt. I played with a number of times with him. He's really fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't
Although I
think
will
he's
say,
green.
I've
Yeah.
you saying you have trouble with Tyranids. I've only played Tyranids twice in the last few months. Once at Nova and once at RTT when I was still in Virginia. Both times I had Murder Fang, and both times he had a turn where he picked up like 700 points in Nids.
Oh boy. Yeah, he would be a really good unit against Nids.
Yeah.
He would just ping pong, especially in champions, 6-inch consolidate. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, the Reaver Lieutenant can do more, but he can't deep strike. So the whole deep strike, shoot, move, try to get an early Majesty only works with the Phobos Lieutenant. But if you want to use the Reavers for a different role, then yeah, the Reaver Lieutenant can work well there. And at that point, if you're not deep striking, I'd almost drop the Reavers and go Hounds of Mordecai, which
Right.
I've thought
Yeah.
about. But we'll see how this trick to drop in for the try to get the early Majesty and threaten backfields does,
Yeah.
with the Wolves pushing pressure from the front and then dropping behind.
Oof.
But yeah, the Reaver Lieutenant is cool, and actually I love his model. But if I wasn't going for the deep strike thing, I would run the Reaver Lieutenant with Hounds of Mordecai instead of Reavers, I think.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's such a. If your opponent doesn't screen, it like guarantees you'll get Saga of Majesty. So it's almost necessary in Champions of Russ. Also, they do pretty decent damage. They got lethal, sustain, AP1, AP2 if you spend the strat. Yeah, they're pretty decent.
Yeah, well, my whole list is designed to go to them anyway, so that's not really a problem for me because I have no shooting. My whole thing is going to them. So I don't think that'll be a problem in this list. But yeah, I could see if you take a little more patient list, a little more shooty counterpunch type list, where that might be a problem. But me, I'm coming to get you anyway, so it's not really a problem. I don't think for me in this
Yeah.
list specifically.
I've actually considered switching back to Champions of Rust. I think I'm still going to go on Stormlance for a while because I
Yep.
think I just like the play pattern of Stormlance, shoving
Yep.
wolves very, very fast on turn one.
Yep.
But Champions just makes so many units good. I mean, I was thinking about a build of Outriders spam in Champions because they
Yeah.
they like all of the Champions of Rust buffs. You know.
Well, and then went around to armies with like a lot of 2-up saves. Just that extra AP strat is huge.
Very good. Yeah, exactly. Extra AP. When you spend the CP to advance and charge, you also get to shoot, and they love to shoot. When you fall back and charge with the CP, they also fall back, shoot, and charge.
Yeah.
They love the 6-up Feel of Pain. They love lethals and sustain. They love the +1 AP. They love the +1 OC strat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Champions, it's just harder to full send turn one. It's basically paced like a turn behind, I feel, from Stormlance.
Right.
But it doesn't get there quite as fast, but it does more when it gets there.
It absolutely does. It has. I think Champions is the second best melee detachment in the game, behind Liberators.
Yeah. So Champions isn't as much full wolf jail. You're not trying to get in their jail, but you can still pressure the middle and bully primary.
Yeah.
But they are able to get out of their deployment and play the game a little more with Rush because I think you are paced to turn behind, but you actually can win the fight more often.
Yeah, boy, do you hit hard.
Because I find a lot of times jail is just, all right, I'm going to swarm you and die, but I'm hoping
I'll score more points.
Slow enough that I score more points. Whereas
and also, I think that what I found success with in Wolf Jail, when you send really fast, really early, it puts your opponent into a headspin. They're like, whoa, and they like start playing bad because they're on the back foot already on turn one.
Right. As if I have people inexperienced with Stormlance, you can really bully, but good players or people who have experience with it can really counter it well, especially if they go first.
And they absorb the pressure.
It's more susceptible to getting jailed itself.
Yep.
Whereas I find this list with all the infantry and stuff I have, it isn't as big a problem because I can still get around and play some middle board while the wolves dig themselves out.
Yeah, it is. I've thought about what melee units, and I have a hard time putting melee units, melee infantry in Stormlance, because melee infantry in Stormlance is not the same as melee infantry in Champions.
No, if it's not mounted or fly vehicle, it really gets no buffs. It just has to go off its own innate abilities. Yep.
Yeah, we have some decent characters, Ulrich and Ragnar.
I've thought about Ulrich in Stormlance just because if you're going into monsters, vehicles, characters, he buffs his unit enough by himself.
Yep.
But I find they're so much better into certain things when you have access to that, making them AP2 instead of just AP1.
And sustained, potentially lethal lance.
Sustained, lethal. Yep. We still can get because is that lance strat in Stormlance only for mounted?
Only for mounted.
Oh yeah, so they can't even get lance. Yeah.
It's rough out there, man.
Yeah, because some of the guys, because Ragnar's unit I love, but if you can't give them lance, some things they bounce off of. But as soon as you give them +1 to wound, even if they normally wound on 6s and going down to 5s, and now they're AP3, they can still do some damage to some big stuff.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that I love about Stormlance is I've always been a melee player. I've always hated shooting armies. And for me to be favored into shooting armies, that is something that comforts my soul. You know, when they're like, all right, let's shoot all of this at these Thunderwolves. I'm like, I'm going to reactive move, -1 to hit and wound, and then blood surge into you. They're like, oh, you know? Anyway.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's one of the reasons I'm not putting too much money into wolves right now, because half of the stuff's going to go away.
Yep. Yep.
So that's why I try to build lists off what I have here or what I can kit bash out of my bits box. But yeah, because I think we're going to get a Terminator refresh. Probably like Blood Claws, Grey Hunters are probably going to get some sort of Primaris options. Just a lot of that stuff. So it's just like, all right, if I don't already have it, which I've got to have 10,000 points of wolves, so I can play almost anything. It's just certain weapon options on certain units based on what was good last edition or the edition before. It's kind of what I'm stuck with because I don't feel like completely rebuilding the units with new stuff coming.
Yeah, exactly. Also, I saw the Codex timeline. It looks like we're not anytime soon.
Oh, no. We'll probably be toward the end of the edition.
Yeah, maybe one of the last codices.
Yep.
So we'll see.
But if they give me Russ, it's worth the wait.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so.
Yeah. Russ running with some like Primaris Wolf Guard, Blade Guard type thing. Like, that could be fun. All right. What else?
It feels a little rough out there to be a Space Wolf. I know we got a couple units buffed in the couple of generic units buffed, but
yeah. And they're allowing Eldari at this R2T I'm going to this weekend, so hopefully I pair into one and can give some insight into how Wolves do into that.
I would really love to hear, because I feel like they have a lot of anti-vehicle and anti-infantry.
Yeah. Well, they're supposedly a lot more pointy, so they're going to have less stuff, but they have all these movement shenanigans. So I'm hoping Ragnar's advance in charge, being able to advance in charge with one wolf unit. And some of their stuff, like if you shoot them, they can do a move. Well, I'm not going to shoot them. So hopefully I'll have the speed going to try to get them in combat. I can charge through the wall and get them, even though they moved out of line of sight for shooting armies. So I'm thinking fast combat armies will be
very good into them.
Better into them than like more shooting armies. Yeah. I'm not going to say very good into them because I think they're going to be strong. So we'll see.
Nub says, thoughts on Arjack? I run him with Logan and 5 Hammer Shield Wolfguard Termies. Does some solid work. He's a very solid data sheet. That guy has decent number of attacks at 3 damage, high strength, and he natively rerolls hits and wounds against character units.
Yep, and I believe he can do the Epic Challenge for free.
Yeah, he gets precision. So he's precision rerolling hits and wounds against character units. Yep. He's a very solid melee Terminator character.
Yes. Yeah, Arjack's cool. It was way better last edition. I loved him last edition, but he's still pretty good. I'm just not huge on Logan and running him with Terminators just because of this. You can drop them in, but they're kind of slow, and I prefer faster units just for my play style.
Yeah.
But I was playing around with a couple months ago first company attachments running a bunch of Terminators with a Terminator Captain, Logan. Like that kind of list was really, really cool. And that would actually work really, really well in there.
Yeah, I think Arjack is great. Logan is great, but I think what I don't love is that they kind of suffer from Terminators just being a mediocre data sheet. The Terminators are like decent, but they're kind of expensive, and people just have the firepower to kill Terminators. Um, yeah, slaps against Tyranids. Maybe I should take some melee
So
infantry.
Richard's been working on a Iandan list. Yeah, Wraithguard with -1 damage are going to be tough for the whole army. Just because, other than the Ulrich unit, I've like Ragnar, they're all damaged too. So
Yeah, damage 2 is going to hurt quite a bit.
yeah, but if they've got the spirits here, whatever, attached to them, hopefully Ulrich's unit can do some work there with Lance and AP2 and rerolling all hits and all wounds.
Yeah, yeah. I
But
mean, like,
Ragnar's unit and the wolves, yeah, going down to damage 1 really, really nerfs their
neuters. Yeah,
neuters. Yeah,
it really does.
yeah,
So we'll see.
yeah. All right, well, that's all I got on my list, and I don't know if there's too much more to cover this week.
Yeah, maybe we'll do a recap after your tournament experience this weekend. I don't have too many tournaments coming up, but I'm just kind of painting up a bunch of tanks and stuff in the background. GT coming up in April. Maybe I'll go to one in March. Maybe in February. We'll see.
So apparently the spirits here are just an aura load up near the. So that'll be a pain.
What an aura of load up! That's so good.
I'll just have
Oh
to
my god.
charge him instead of the Wraith card.
Yeah, well, I mean, I played it. I grew when I switched over to Space Wolves beginning of 10th. I played into a lot of Eldar, so I know Eldar back and front, and I
Yeah,
found that the Stormlance archetype is
yeah,
very good in Eldar. Very
yeah,
squishy, only shooting, no melee.
yeah.
So I'm curious to see how it goes. I'm going to place my buddy with the new Eldar Codex in the next week or two.
Yeah. Well, the problem is, they play completely different now. They like really redid that
Redid
whole
the whole
army.
thing, which I'm all about. I think, yeah, I'm all about it.
Yeah, so it'll be really, really tough.
Ooh, what's our best unit and or character unit? Each of your opinions.
Uh,
What do you think?
that's tough. Honestly, our best unit, what's been carrying us for the last year or so, is Thunderwolves.
Yep, hard agree.
Um, Now my favorite, which I love to take, is Ragnar and a squad of Blade Guard. They crush into most stuff, but there are certain things they hit that they don't. But yeah, the most winning list, you see the Battle Leader with Thunderwolves for the lethal hits and the Blood Surge. And then you attach either a Wolf Lord, Logan, Herald, something to them. But I'd say Thunderwolves with the Battle Leader are the.
Absolutely agree. I think also the character unit that has created the whole Space Wolves archetype that has carried Wolf Jail as well, Logan Grimnar. The
Oh
once
yeah,
per game ability to have every unit in your army reroll charges and hits for a whole player turn, it just makes a turn that you send your whole army backbreaking. So that
yeah.
is like a necessary character in every list.
And not just Wolf Jail. Any like all my champions are Russells. Even when I wasn't
Logan.
running him, when I was running Land Raiders with the Black Death Captain and like all that stuff, Logan was still super key in those.
Yeah, yeah. I think everyone's been talking about, oh, how do Space Marines deal with only having one Oath target? Then you kind of fall off against other units. Well, we have Oath for every unit for a single turn, so it just
Yeah, and just
yeah,
use that on your go turn. And especially in Russ with the 6-inch Consolidate and Murder Fang, that just gets stupid sometimes.
yeah. I mean, also we talk about character unit. That I think there's like 8 or 10 Space Wolf characters that I consider putting in every list because we have a
Oh
lot
yeah,
of good characters,
yeah.
like a
Bjorn,
lot of good characters.
Murder Fang, Logan, Ragnar, Ulrich. Um,
Yeah,
And then, I mean, those are the names. And then you have the battle leader on Wolf, the Wolf Lord on Wolf, Herald, Canis. I ran Canis at ATC. Canis can be cool because you can't take the battle leader. So I only run him when I'm running 3 units because then I still have 2 blood surges. But yeah, because he's not a captain. So if you run him, you can't take the battle leader.
Yeah, yeah.
But he does give the whole unit sustained hits.
And charge mortals. So he's a pretty solid
Herald gives charge mortals. Canis gives sustained.
No, Canis gives sustained and charge mortals. Herald gives dev wounds to...
Well, Canis does charge mortals for himself. He doesn't give it to that dog.
Yeah, he doesn't give the unit charge mortals. No.
He does. He has an ability to do a few, but yeah, Herald gives it to the whole unit.
Yeah.
Which in Stormlance isn't bad because then you have a wolf unit with sustained, but they don't get the lethal from the battle leader, so it's not the same.
Yeah, not quite the same. You could just go champions and have sustained all the time everywhere.
Yep. You just lose the fall back in charge, advance in charge on everybody, but Ragnar's got advance for me. You can do it with 1 Thunderwolf squad per turn or 1 other unit. So you just have to plan your game plan a little different, and you don't miss it. But yeah, you definitely don't have the turn 1 or 2 sending 2 Thunderwolf squads all the way.
Yeah, it's a different play pattern for sure. It really is.
Yep. All right, so another question. Besides Rush, what's something you each hope for in terms of update or new models? Well, new models, like I said, I want some kind of cool, like, Blade Guard type thing. And we need a Wolf Priest that does something like a Chaplain and something like an Apothecary. Because right now, he's just a Chaplain, and we're not allowed to take Apothecaries. So we're penalized for no reason because we don't... We used to have a guy that kind of filled half the role of each, so he couldn't take either. Well, now we can take Chaplains, but we can't take Apothecaries at all in our detachments. And we have nobody that does anything like that.
Yeah. I would say my one hope is an updated Bjorn and Murderfang kit. Yes. Like on a Brutalis frame or a Redemptor frame. That would be so cool.
Yep. And make Wolfen actually good again. Dude, they
you don't think they're good? You don't think they're good?
No. I don't think they're bad, but I don't think they're good.
Yeah. They hit hard, man. They got a lot of 2 damage attacks.
But... Yeah, well, they used to be 3 damage and strength 10 AP3.
Oh my god.
And they always fought on death, even if they had already fought. They had advance in charge. They had a feel no pain. They had a 3-up invul. Wow. Like they were the best thing in the Codex or the Index back in 8th edition.
Jeez, that is a different unit.
And they've been paying for their sins ever since.
Yeah. Okay, so here's the thing. People hate Iron Priest on Thunderwolf back. That would be so cool. Iron Priest on a Thunderwolf. Oh my god. I hope they update Thunderwolves. I hope they do.
Yep. And this isn't just a Space Wolf thing. Captains on bikes. Like, bro, I love bikes so much. Dude, I've got like 30 bikes sitting on my shelf from where I used to have command squads with power weapons and melt the guns, and you attach characters. Like, bikes are so cool. Like, dude, I'd love to be able to run a Thunderwolf bike combat army that's not like just Outriders. Like, I have a cool converted captain on an Outrider bike with a Thunder Hammer and Storm Shield that used to run with my regular bike. Like,
can I talk a bit of heresy for a second? Just a bit of heresy. I know this is a Wolf podcast, but Dark Angels, they've got a Raven Wing command squad. All right, that's enough heresy.
Anyway. No, I love Raven Wing. I got Black Knights on the Apothecary on bike. I got all that stuff. I used to love running pure bike.
I love mounted units. Mounted units on bikes, on wolves, on freaking blood crushers. I just think mounted units are the coolest. So.
I want a detachment where we have a strat where wolves can go through walls like all these other stupid detachments have for people.
Oh, okay. So here's the thing. Here's an interesting rules interaction that you heretic. Thank you, Richard. Here's an interesting rules interaction you wouldn't quite get on first glance. Is that in the core rulebook, and I can look this up if people are curious. It says that models can go up and over terrain if you measure the distance up and the distance down.
Yeah.
And terrain's usually 5 inches tall. So you think if a unit moves 6, they're not going to be able to go up and over terrain. If it moves 10, it's not going to be able to, because you can't end halfway up or halfway down or halfway through the wall. But if a unit can go 19 or 21 inches, then actually it can go up and over terrain pretty far.
Yeah.
So
By that
I
point, you're
think
really only going just like 9 inches.
exactly, but sometimes that's actually enough. Um, yeah, so I do actually tell people in Stormlands because they have the Auto 9 advanced strat. I'm like, hey,
Yeah.
I know move blocking is a thing against me. I'm cool with that. Here's something I can do for 2 CP. I
Yeah.
can just move 10 or 9 or 10 inches through a wall.
Yeah.
Um, anyway, yeah.
Yeah. I have that. That's the one thing that helped me a little in the Eldar game was the what are they called? Night spinners or whatever. They give you -2 move and -2 to advance and charge rolls.
Oh, damn.
Well, I had the TO rule that the Wolf Lord's +1 advance, +1 charge to charge advance and charge rolls doesn't isn't allowed to be added to the 9-inch advance because it's not a roll. It replaces the roll.
It does.
So that meant his -2 to advance and charge rolls didn't affect it.
That, yeah,
So he took me
exactly.
down to 8-inch move, but I still got the full 9 on the strat,
Yeah, or
which
even
surprised him. Yeah, so I went
it
17.
is.
Yep, because he thought he was going to really limit me down to like what have been 8 plus 7, so 15. But I actually got to go 17. I mean, still 15, still a decent move,
15
but
still pretty
got
decent.
to go 17 and then still get the +1 to. Instead of it being -1 to charge because the captain gave me the +1 still, but like
Yeah, yeah. Space Wolf Command Squad would be interesting. Yeah, it would. Like a Council of the Wolf Lords. Come on.
yes,
Well, that would be so cool.
GW. We need some miniatures of me and Aiden.
Company heroes, but of us.
Yes.
I actually would love to take Ragnar with Company Heroes. I wish you could.
Yeah.
He would be so good in Company Heroes, man. But
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah. Or yeah, Ragnar with really cool Primaris blood claws.
that would be sick. That would be really sick. I hope they give our Blood Claws and Grey Hunters actually decent rules.
Yeah.
Blood Claws are decent with Ulrich, but other than that, they're just kind of disappointing
Yeah.
firstborn, you know.
But for a couple more points, you just take the Wolf Guard and hit on 2s instead of 3s,
You get a Storm Shield.
and you get Storm Shield or Combi Weapon, however people want to run them.
Ooh. We're look at this comment from Xander.
Yeah, do a deep dive into the Hounds of Mordecai. I haven't run them much lately, so it's probably not something I could do justice to tonight.
Yeah.
But we're gonna start trying to. I'm gonna start trying to do a show every Tuesday night. I don't know how often Aiden will be available, but I'll look into that and get back to you on that next week.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, GW does dirty by not giving them AP. Yeah, it kind of sucks. They get dev wounds, anti-psyker, precision.
Yeah.
I guess
Did
I
they
can talk
not?
about that.
Did
Go
they
ahead.
not gain the AP1 when all the Reavers and stuff did?
Let me check if they're already AP1. I think they might be.
Because I
I'll
thought
double
they
check.
got that update when the Reavers did, but maybe that was just me
They didn't
assuming.
get any update for AP with the most recent data slate, but I thought they had native AP on their weapons. But so I've run them a couple times. I found that they are similar to assault intercessors against everything that's not a psyker. Against a psyker, they can basically take down full units by themselves. But I would just count on them. I wouldn't
No, it's
count on them.
AP0.
Range weapons, melee weapons, AP0. Yeah, 4 attacks, dev wounds, precision.
Yeah,
They're
so if you
like,
enter Russ, you can bump them up to AP1, but now you're using the strat.
yeah, exactly. And they scout. I really like the Phobos lieutenant with them because they can't deep strike, but they come in for strategic reserve and they move D6 and charge. And they're like, again, I would consider them kind of similar to jump pack intercessors. They will do a couple of mortals and a bunch of AP0 or AP1 damage. They're
Yeah,
not
they do
gonna,
get AP1 on their pistol though, but
yeah.
And I had someone who in the list review I did the other day, he was running 10 Hounds of Mordecai with a Phobos librarian so that they were low op.
That's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
That is kind of interesting. Low op. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't have the points to find that in this list, but if you started a list and had that figured in, I think that could be an interesting thing.
Yeah, they're really scary against Psyker armies.
Yes.
Demons.
Eldar have a couple.
Eldar.
Grey Knights.
T-Sons.
Thousand Sons. Yeah, that was my only thing with them is they really go off in certain matchups, but AP0 on their combat and stuff. In other matchups, I'd rather just have assault intercessors or just regular reavers.
Yeah, they're decent skirmish. I would say they're similar to jump back intercessors. So if
Yep.
if you want to kill an opposing scout squad or something like that, um, they're decent skirmish.
Yep. But yeah, I like the JPIs in a lot of lists. I don't have them in this one, but that you do those 1 or 2 mortals in the charge sometimes. That really helps
It does. It
clearing out
does.
screens.
I love them in with library focus librarian because it lets you play more reserved as a wolf player against gun lines, which is something I feel like I struggle to do normally. Yeah, I want a full send.
Yeah.
Yeah, playing reserved is super important. I think that was if anyone follows the LVO, Jack Harpster went third with the Angelic Inheritors. I think partially because he had a lone op shooting unit that was able to take down tanks.
Yeah.
So lone op units that your opponent can't deal with can really throw a wrench in their game plan.
Yeah. Yeah, but I found that's one of the like my champions of res lists when I can pace a turn or two back and like play the game instead of having to go in right away. I just find that most of the time just take some pressure off me. It's like because if they really hide and they don't come out at all, then like I don't feel like I have to full send early.
Right. Yeah, totally.
Especially because I can send some of my little stuff out and do some secondaries, keep the score close, and then wait for them to draw a secondary that forces them to come out or something. Especially if I manage to get second turn, then I'm like, especially with the wolves. Even if I have first turn, if you play too patient, I'll just throw all the wolves out on like turn 4, and then you're not getting your auto 15 or whatever on turn 5 because now you're jailed back because you didn't force me to come out too early.
Yeah, I find that the wolves on being on 60 millimeters is a blessing and a curse. It is a unwieldy bastard of a unit, but it's like a claymore. It's like very hard to wield, but when you wield it effectively, you can bully people.
Yep.
You can use those 60 millimeter bases to just like,
Yep. And I find people expect you to full send early. So in certain matchups, when I just do a secure no man's land and area denial or secure and extend or something with just a little scout unit and score some secondary early, and they're like, shit, now I gotta, like, oh, he didn't come out and he's scoring points. Now I have to reactively do something.
Totally.
Yeah. The scout move, shoot d6, movement, and charge.
Yeah, they can get a lot of movement on their home. I've even thought about running them in an impulsor. The impulsor, because it's dedicated with the Phobos lieutenant. Scouts, you can get out, you can advance, shoot, and then get another d6 and then charge. So it's like 15 plus 2d6 plus a charge is like
still talking about the hounds.
The hounds, yeah, with the Phobos.
Yes, you get you can do a 6-inch scout, then a 6-inch move, shoot, and hopefully get around a 3 to 4. Yeah, that could be really cool.
Well,
yeah, we got a bunch of people in chat for once. That's pretty cool. Any other questions before Aiden and I wrap this up? Also, anyone who hasn't seen it, I have a scorebook out for 40K, almost functional Grimdark score tracker. I got the stupid. Here, I'll put the video up real quick. It's basically like the tabletop battles and stuff. So my new game score tracker is available on Amazon. Just look up Grimdark Score Tracker. Lets you keep track of all your games for Pariah Nexus. It's got a battle round scoring primary up top. All the secondaries listed by rounds, kind of like you see on some of the apps or printable score sheets. But this, so that's up on a YouTube short if you want to see the whole thing. But
it's pretty cool.
Yeah, well, because I find you either slip in between the GW app and your score app while you're trying to play the game, or after a 3-round event, my stupid phone starts dying on the last round when I'm trying to do stuff because I've had it open the whole time.
Yep. Yeah, totally. I like that idea of tracking manually. It's cool.
Yeah, I like the combi weapon lieutenant, like his lone op and his reactive move, and like I had a game where somebody was trying to get him. He was like, they're basically playing Ring Around the Rosie around the building. It was kind of funny.
That is really funny. I'm trying out the lieutenant. I tried him out early in 10th, and I just kind of fell out of love with him because he didn't do any damage, but I don't think that's his role.
No,
So I'm
he's
kind of
basically
coming around to
it was
him.
I stopped taking for a little bit because scouts were 5 points or 10 points cheaper, but now
Yep.
scouts are the exact same points. So now I'm
Yep.
running him and as a unit of scouts. So I love the combi lieutenant. He was in the list I'm taking this weekend.
But yeah. I'm trying him out now. So
Plus, he got that cool model. He's got like the fucking blade and the Tyranid
yeah,
skull. Like the
and honestly, he is the definition of a lone wolf. He's literally lone wolf. Remember back in, I don't know if you played back in
oh yeah,
what,
I've
sixth,
played since
seventh, and
I've
eighth.
played since second edition.
Yeah, you know how it is. You can run
Yeah.
lone wolf characters of just like Terminators running around
Yeah.
in the middle of the battlefield, just doing cool shit.
Yeah, and then I
What he
can't remember
does.
what edition it was. Whatever, if your unit got down to one model, you could use a stratagem to make them a lone wolf, and they'd gain character +1 or +2 wounds, +2 attacks. Like that was a cool thing too. Like basically, a guy
Yeah,
would become one. So you give the Terminator pack leader to like the Blood Claws or Grey Hunters. So when the squad died, and all of a sudden that guy became a character, and that was back when characters couldn't be targeted.
yeah,
They couldn't join units, but they couldn't be targeted. So now all of a sudden you'd have a guy on a back objective. They leave one guy alive. Now he's a character. They can't shoot him. And he's got +2 attack, +2 wounds. So those Terminators running with like hammers or claws or whatever. And they actually did some work. That was actually a pretty cool thing.
it was super cool. I actually, people thought we were asked the question earlier was like, what would you hope for the new codex? That would be cool if we had a lone op lone wolf. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That would be really cool.
Yeah, some sort of lone wolf type thing. Yeah.
An enhancement making any character lone op the new codex. That again, so cool.
Yeah.
Actually, I think there's an enhancement in Vanguard Spearhead that gives a character lone op, and you can put it on a wolf lord on Thunderwolf. So 7 wolf T6, 7 wound T6 lone op. I was like, damn, that's actually really good. Too bad I don't run Vanguard.
I wish I could put it on Herald, and then you have load up, 0 damage.
Oh my god, that'd be so obnoxious to deal with.
Herald can be so. I've had games where they get down to Herald, and then he just keeps living because they shoot big stuff into him, and he just pops the 0 damage and like makes 4-ups and like.
He's surprisingly tanky.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen people run him just by himself.
Right. Yeah.
But all right. Anything else? Anybody got any other questions? I see we had a couple people just joined. All right. Well, thank you guys for watching. Like, share, subscribe if you haven't done any of that stuff. And we'll try to be back next week around the same time. I will be, and hopefully I can get Aiden.
Yeah.
We'll start trying to maybe possibly wrangle some other people every once in a while. So also, people have started sending me lists. I'm going to start doing some more list reviews during the week. So you can hit me on almost functional 40k at Gmail or just the almost functional Facebook page. Just send it to me in Messenger. But with that being said, we will catch you guys next time.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone.